The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Maynard Bangs, Judge Big Ben Haslar, Judge Dylan J. Schlender, and Judge Season 6 and Getting Our Kicks, Ryan Luis Rodriguez presiding. Your eyes for the Honorable Judge, the Handsomes.
Hey, all right, thank you, Ben.
Those guys. Be seated. Welcome to the Appeals of Justice 4, the final crackdown for peace.
Nice.
All right, it was your thing, Schlenzo. Hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I think that's wonderful. So what I did is I combined different part fours. So you got the final chapter, the crackdown, and the quest for peace, and I shoved them all together. It's a great joke.
Jokes are always funny when you explain them.
Joke. I agree. I liked it. Once again, we're revisiting some of our previous decisions, taking new evidence into consideration, looking at things in a new light, and determining whether the verdict for that case should be overturned or upheld. Very controversial. First on the docket is ROJ-552, The People versus the Wizard, a 1989 travel adventure film about two young brothers hitchhiking to California to compete in a video game tournament. The film was found guilty. Mr. Schlenzo D., you are presenting the defense. You may proceed with your first exhibit.
Thank you very much, Your Honors, and can I just say how profoundly disappointed I am that we are back at the Appeals of Justice. I had on very good authority that the third one was going to be the last one, but much like some villains that will be discussed later, we have come back to get our slimy.
Only 1 out of 4 judges is against it.
Don't worry, this is the final crackdown.
Okay, well that's good. For peace. The Wizard. Easily the best travel adventure movie we've discussed in this courtroom. How we've found it guilty is a puzzle to me. And when we look at the original prosecution for the film, a lot of it was centered around the commercialism. A lot of the defense was centered around the heart. But when we get into the jury deliberation room, there's a lot of talk about the main character and his condition. And this is a door that was opened by the prosecution by comparing it to things like Rain Man and Tommy. So I want to be careful with how we're discussing such a sensitive subject. And the question, it basically becomes a question of, is the main character afflicted with autism or some kind of neurodivergency? And having scoured the special features and the critical literature of The Wizard, I have maybe a shocking conclusion, and that is, I don't think he is. And I don't think that the filmmakers thought he was either. So let's take a look at what we know about Jimmy as portrayed by Luke Edwards in The Wizard. He is a twin. Now, popular psychology focuses a lot on twins, twin studies, the special relationships that twins have. It is in the literature that twins form significant bonds with each other very early in life, typified by, let's say, Phil and Lil from Rugrats, for example.
Ooh.
Yes. Jimmy sees his sister die. And let's remember the way Corey, as played by Fred Savage, describes that. She just simply drowns silently in front of Jimmy. He remarks about how her body didn't even float away. It just hung there, traumatizing Jimmy. This brings me to I'm going to submit this for evidence, the special feature from the Shout Factory release, where they actually talk to a clinical psychologist named Andrea Latamendi, PhD.
Perfect.
Yes. who also does a
I didn't
podcast
expect
about
that to be spelled with a PhD.
no one would really, and she does a podcast about Batman, and so I think we should try to get her
Cool.
on as a guest. I know she's
Check
really
her
cool,
out.
and she's done a TED talk on these things, so she is a well-credentialed expert, and she's actually pointing out this question about neurodivergency vis-a-vis Jimmy, and she points to the Reno scene when he's looking at all the lights and everything and actually not being that overstimulated. How he's playing video games and not being that overstimulated. Now, the type of autism that is typically subscribed to Jimmy that would lead to this savant-like behavior typically has a lot of trouble with overstimulation. And you can actually see that well portrayed in the movie this gets compared to a lot, Rain Man. We don't see that in Jimmy. As a matter of fact, we see Jimmy get overstimulated when he's having conflicting feelings about his relationship with Corey as it relates to Haley. That's a subplot that he's actually getting a little jealous of how they're getting close, and that's when he kind of has his freak out. This is not something that would be typical in the type of autism that is, again, grafted on to Jimmy's character. So what explains Jimmy's behavior? Again, we go back to the PTSD, and this is something that Dr. Lettermende, oh God, I really hope I'm saying that right.
You are.
Explains that in children who suffer traumatic events, it's very, very natural for them to withdraw, to go inside, to be silent, not to say anything, and develop fixations, especially fixations on things they can control. This is what we see Jimmy building. His mother says, I like to think the building means something. That's a very sweet sentiment, but what the building is actually his way of having control over a world that he feels he really doesn't have control of. That's what his sister dying did to him. It just made him acutely aware of how powerless he was. If he can build, he has power. If he can build, his pattern recognition goes up. I want to look at this idea of him being a savant, because a savant is a very specific term, and it was one that was used by the prosecution, and it wasn't one that was deflected by the defense. But I don't think, knowing what we know about Jimmy, savant is the right term, right? He's not preternaturally gifted at video games the way like Rain Man was able to count the toothpicks when they fall. You know, he doesn't have that kind of ability. What he has is heightened pattern recognition developed by being so withdrawn during this period of time of his trauma. For example, he's not exactly better than the other gamers that are not savants and not portrayed as having any trauma or not portrayed as autistic. I think we can safely say that the main competitors that he goes up against are neurotypical.
I don't know about Mora.
They have power gloves, though.
That's true. We'll get to that too. Actually, a little aside. Good friend of the court, Dwight Hurst, messaged me, and I was talking to him about this movie. I'm like, "Oh, Dwight, this is great. You're a mental health expert. You can help my case." But he only wanted to talk about the Power Glove, and so that's all we talked about.
Sounds like Dwight to me.
Yeah. So thank you, Dwight. But
thanks for nothing.
No, actually, so some of the Power Glove, we could talk about some of the commercial aspects of that, but I feel like this is the biggest rock to move. And something else that the prosecution brought up was about how even the name, the Wizard, is inviting comparisons to Tommy, and the prosecution implied that Tommy was actually an autistic character. And having done some research into the opera, Tommy is not. Tommy is actually suffering the same kind of condition that Jimmy's suffering, because he was traumatized at 4 years old and developed psychosomatic blindness and deafness. So that's why
Tommy's deaf, dumb, and blind. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, but it's psychosomatic. That's the key. So that's a result of trauma, not neurodivergence for Tommy. So calling Jimmy the Wizard is inviting that comparison to Tommy, who through our 2026 eyes, at the time of that case, 2023 eyes, it's very easy to project these kind of neurodivergence on them. However, if you look at the clinical record for young children that suffer trauma, it looks a lot like, well, Tommy would be extreme with the psychosomatic blindness and such, but Jimmy basically being mute, but we see is capable of articulating speech, of communicating when he wants to, which is not something that if he were to be the degree of neurodivergent that, say, Rain Man would be, he would be capable of, especially at such a young age. This is not to say that Jimmy's faking it or anything like that. I want to be very clear. I'm saying this is part and parcel to the extreme trauma that he witnessed. So that's my first exhibit, is I want to clear up what I think was a big sticking point for the jury about this portrayal of neurodivergency, which the writer of the film said was not the intent. He learned of a story of a young boy who suffered a traumatic event. I think he said his father died in front of him. And he was able... Well, real quick.
If I may.
Okay, yeah, okay, sure.
What was this meant to echo Rain Man? Did the writer say anything about that?
Yes, he did, actually. He said Rain Man was not on his mind. Now, you could call him a liar, and you could say whatever you want. What he said his original idea was, and I'll walk through the timeline. His idea was he wanted to do the Karate Kid for video games. And I know there was a lot made about how Nintendo made this movie happen, but that is not true. The movie would be greenlit if they could get a star. And they got Fred Savage. The movie was already underway and planned before Nintendo entered the picture.
So, question for was it? Sure. It was different video games they were playing.
It would have been different
but
video games.
The script's basically the same thing. They're still like going across country, bringing
asteroids or whatever,
bringing their game system with them and plugging those into the hotel TV to play video games along the way.
I can't speak to the Bridges and Christian Slater side stories to that. What I can tell you is then the original treatments of the script, because obviously Nintendo got there sufficiently before. Like, I think Nintendo got involved and they were already working on like second unit stuff. Like the primary stuff hadn't started, but the movie was cast and greenlit and ready to go. And then Nintendo got plugged in. So the original script called for completely original games that were going to be called. They had like original games, like I think one was called like Blitzer or something like that. And that was going to be the finale. And Nintendo actually surprised them at the end. Once they saw the script, they said, hold on a minute. We have something really cool you could do for your finale. We'll let you do a game that's not even out yet. So that ended up marrying very well. And that's what the writer said. He's like, look, this game was going to happen, but the fact we got to use real games to do it makes it really cool. And now think about this in some other movies we've seen. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Warrior with Tom Hardy.
Yep.
All right. So in that movie, one of the things that's kind of hard to believe is that there are no real MMA fighters in it. They're all made up. You know, like there's no Iceman. There's no, I'm kind of struggling, Bones Jones. Ooh. You know, there's no one that you would expect to see at the best MMA championship in the world. So even though I love Warrior and it's a great drama, that part of it is kind of weak. So now we have a great drama, but it actually has real world video games that people and kids actually know. So that is really cool. And because if this whole movie happened and had fake video games, it would be lame. It'd be like, oh, come on, what is it? I mean, how often do you see that in movies where like someone's holding an N64 controller, but they're playing a PlayStation game? I mean, at least this game had the goods.
It happened was a game on an episode of King of the Hill that I watched yesterday. It happens on animated shows, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny, though.
And so that's what's kind of neat. It's like, so this movie was already underway. It was already greenlit, and the guy already had the idea. And this would have been contemporaneous with Rain Man, you know. And again, this is something we see, you know, you got your Deep Impacts and your Armageddons. I mean, these things happen. And I think what happened was with Rain Man being so popular, obviously it's very natural to make the comparisons, which I think are fair, but I don't think it does anything as a demerit to what the Wizard is presenting. And then as we learned more about childhood trauma, as we learned more about the autism spectrum, as people who were neurodivergent began to relate to Jimmy, right? Not judge it, not say, oh, that's ridiculous, but you had so many fans coming out saying, you know, in my condition, I couldn't be Ralph Macchio. This is actually a fan saying this in one of the special features. He said, I couldn't be Ralph Macchio, but I could be Jimmy. You know what I mean? Like, it gave a bit of hope. It gave a bit of uplifting to people who would be otherwise completely ignored in movies. So the fact that they were able to relate to him, and then you start seeing that as the movie gets more and more popular, that stuff gets put upon the movie. And I think that's great. I think that's a special thing, and I'm glad people are able to relate to it. But if we even strip away the fans and we look at it in a vacuum, when we look at the intentionality of what the writers, the producers, the actors, Luke Edwards has been very candid speaking about his time as Jimmy. I mean, he looked like he might have been on or off something based on the interviews I saw, but still he has a lot of love for the character. So again, I that's the point I really wanted to drive home, because that seemed to be what affected the jury the most. And I want to let them know that it's okay. What we see from Jimmy, we would expect to see from someone who suffered that kind of trauma.
And the moral of the story is what? Like, as far as like the video games go, like if it were his skills, like his worth becomes monetizable. So what is the point of it?
And again, this is something else that the jury did. You guys kept using the word, he's only worth. It's not about his worth. It's about how he's able to express himself. That's the key here. He doesn't quite know how to interact with a world he can't control, but you can control what happens in video games. And he has to learn that in the video games. I mean, we see him die a couple times in Mario 3. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think we see Rayman bust. You know what I mean? So again, that just kind of goes against the savant-like quality here. Also, what that means when he wins now, because obviously you have to remember, Jimmy's not the only one with trauma here. Corey lost his sister. Nick lost his sister. Sam lost his daughter. You know, so you have this whole cast. They're all dealing with trauma in their own way, and they're all drifting apart. And Beau Bridges' character, Sam, he doesn't have custody of Jimmy. Jimmy's now stepdad is the one who wants to institutionalize him. He wants him out of the picture because it's frustrating. It's painful for his now wife. They don't know how to do it, how to manage it. And they're all hurting. But seeing that Jimmy finally is able to express himself, that he's able to make it to California to give his sister a proper goodbye, that's when it all clicks for them. And they all realize, like, wow, we have to work harder, not just for Jimmy, but for ourselves and for our family. So that's the real lesson there, Judge Haslar. It's not about him proving his worth. It is sort of about the scales falling from the family's eyes. And it's not because it's monetizable, but it's because he's finally expressing himself. You could do the same thing if he became a painter. You could have done the same thing if he was building robots or something. But the fact is they chose video games because it would be a more kid-friendly story, and it lends itself really well to that idea of the Karate Kid with video games, which
it's not the Karate Kid with video games. He doesn't train up. But I do have one last hard-hitting question.
He does train up.
It's not the Karate Kid isn't a travel adventure film.
Okay, it's not a travel adventure film, but a lot of that comes from the director because he loved travel kids movies. When he
hardest question for you.
Okay, I'll do my best.
What do you say to the millions of children who got a Power Glove only to play Rad Racer?
Oh, man, that one is tough, Your Honor. And again, I would just have to point
That's because it didn't work with it? Was that it, Ben?
No,
it only worked with like a handful of games. Like, it didn't work as well as...
No. Well, okay, back it up. The Power Glove technically would work as a normal controller for any game. There were only a handful of games that were designed with the Power Glove in mind. So yes, you could play Rad Racer with the Power Glove, but it was you weren't like steering your hand like he was doing in the movie, right? What? So that was a bit of Hollywood embellishment. And the reason that happened,
Hollywood embellishment.
Well, and the reason that happened was because when Nintendo came on, And they're like, we've got a bunch of cool stuff that you can use. They literally bought the Power Glove. The director was saying this in one of the special features. They brought the Power Glove to the set in a locked box and unlocked it and opened it just like they do in the movie. And the director's like, I love it. I want that in my movie. And we're going to do the same exact thing. So it is just a bit of fun, and again, it's not about this just being a commercial. It's about the fact they wanted to make a movie about video games, and they just lucked out that the biggest video game corporation in the world wanted to play ball. And Nintendo's not like an evil company, guys. Nintendo wants kids to be happy.
I don't know if we have enough time to prove that.
They've made tons and tons of fun games. My point is, I don't think by trying to slap this like commercialism label on here is enough to drag it down to bad, because there's ads in movies, there's product placements in movies, and if you did a movie about video games and you didn't use real video games, it would have just been weird.
Well, I think this is beyond a product placement where like E.T. eats some Reese's Pieces. The entire plot of this movie comes to a standstill several times so characters can play Super Mario 3 for like 10 minutes. So if I love your story about this heartfelt human story that I felt had existed in some version of this script. I'm shocked to find that video games were a part of it from day one. That's shocking.
Always was.
Because you could literally remove them from the movie and you have almost a coherent like drama going on where kids are running from home and need to be pursued by their parents across the country, and they kind of just coming of age sort of travel story, right? The fact that the parents play video games as they travel across the country is what makes no sense. They should be pursuing their children and try to get them back, not sitting and playing video games in their hotel for hours on end. I mean, the character of Sam literally learns how to play Super Mario Brothers. That would take hours. He should be out trying to get his kid. They could have flown to California to intercept the kids or told the police that they were going to be there. They don't do any of that. So my problem is the marrying of the commercial. If you were coming there for a human story, suddenly you've got to sit through a last 15 minutes where there's just this huge video game section. You go, what the hell is going on? There's nothing about human drama here. Or you came there for the cool video games, and instead you sat through almost an hour of human drama to get to the Super Mario Brothers. So
you got drama in my Mario Brothers movie.
Exactly. I feel like nobody leaves happy.
No, that's where
nobody wants both is the problem. Nobody wants both. People who want the human drama don't want the video game.
The fans have spoken. That's why the Shout Factory release happened. That's why there's documentaries. This is a beloved movie for all of those reasons, and I want to address a few of them. Now, one of the reasons that we do see the Beau Bridges and Christian Slater having their own asides is you do have to remember that the main characters in this movie are children. They could only film for 6 hours a day. So in order for the movie to actually happen, you did have these subplots with the adults and their hijinks. I think Beau Bridges learning video games as part of his journey and then seeing his son express himself. Again, the video games are about expressing himself. You're right. It could not be video games, but it would have to be something because he was so traumatized. He needed some kind of outlet to move the plot. They just happened to do video games and it happened to work really well, resulting in that really cool video Armageddon scene at the end. So by Beau Bridges playing video games, he was able to start to understand his son and start connecting with him. Now it's a deleted scene.
Couldn't he do that after he got his son has run away from home and is out? He could be kidnapped and murdered.
When he was playing the games, the first time they're playing the games because they have the flat tires, they can't go anywhere. The second time he's playing the games, Christian Slater is asleep and he's playing, and then they get up and they go. So he is playing during downtime. I understand you want to have a lot of urgency, but at the same time, this is also a fun adventure movie. So you got to slow things down a little bit. If you just have the parents panicking the whole time, it's not going to be as fun. And you never see that in any children adventure movies. You don't even see it in Homeward Bound or anything like that. So I don't think that point rings particularly true. And they do get back on the road after they're sufficiently rested. And they do eventually catch up with the kids. So I don't think you need to worry about that point, Your Honor, and I think it does fit well into the story that they're trying to tell.
Ryan, do you have anything to add? I know that you were...
I was particularly perturbed during our discussion, being the sole neurodivergent person on this team.
Well, maybe.
And I think that Dylan found the right way to express this. And having seen the bonus features since we actually recorded, what he's saying is true.
Okay.
The psychologist said all of those things. And she doesn't turn out to be a quack. She's not selling false bail goods.
I thought she was going to be a quack for a minute, so I did Google to make sure.
She could still be a quack. I'm not willing to eliminate it yet. Not until she comes on the show.
Broken quack can be right twice a day.
I am sufficiently satisfied with Dylan's explanation of the savant-like qualities.
Okay, Ryan wants to overturn. Ben, what do you feel?
Well, he didn't say that.
Oh, do you not want? Are you going not guilty?
I'm waiting.
Ryan?
I'm waiting.
Oh, he's waiting. Okay.
Oh, he gets to do the.
He doesn't
moment.
technically, but but you go ahead, Ben.
I will overturn. I'm satisfied enough with that explanation. I don't know that it plays off that way, and I don't know that I'd say it's a great movie. It's not the Karate Kid with video games, but if people are judging it, which we did because it was presented that way in the case, that this was a neurodivergent person and that's what his worth is derived from, and that's not the case, then it becomes, sort of a fun, dumb kid movie. And it succeeds on that level because I'm sure the kids love seeing the Mario Brothers and the Power Glove and all of that. And the pursuing the kids does bind the story together enough. So I will say not guilty.
Ryan, would you like to lock in or go last?
I'll go not guilty.
All right, so you'll go not guilty. It won't matter for my part, but I am going to stand my ground because that original prosecutor was so handsome. I'm going to stay guilty, mostly because having rewatched it the whole time. I went, this is goddamn insane. What are you doing? Your children they're robbed and nearly murdered a few times.
Comedy.
But exactly, it's a comedy. They're never in any real danger.
Exactly.
And think about the way that romanticizes running away. Think about how many children ran away to have their own adventure, just like the
literally,
Wizard.
Man, we grew up.
I think how many kids bought the Power Glove is like a bigger detriment to society than how many kids ran away.
That I would agree
with.
with.
The Goonies didn't cause all those kids to run away. Why would the Wizard?
It might have. We don't know, but that's all right. So the decision in the ROJ-552, The People versus the Wizard, has been overturned. The Wizard is not guilty of being a bad movie, and we are very sorry. We'll now hear the next case.
Next, we will have ROJ-510, The People versus Superman 2025. The superhero movie that follows the titular hero as he navigates a world that is turned against via an evil plot orchestrated by his archenemy, Lex Luthor. Mr. Second to Last Son of Krypton, Ryan Luis Rodriguez, you are representing the defense. You may proceed with your case.
Well, I'm not going to be like Dylan and waste our time for 17 minutes while we all trying to wait for him to finish. I'm going to be quick and to the point, and then you can ask me as many questions as you like, and I'll answer them because I'm a bitch like that. First of all, I love the fact when we did Superman Returns, I remember a big problem that I had with it is that it kept Lex Luthor at the same level that he was at in the 1978 Superman, which is still the best installment of this ever-growing franchise. I will not doubt that. But he feels in those movies like a Bond villain. And that's probably because the guy who wrote or rewrote Superman wrote like 3 different James Bond movies. So that's what was in his head. And somebody pointed out, I forgot who was the prosecutor, but Lex Luthor was basically a criminal genius until 1985 with Crisis on Infinite Earths, when he became the Earth supremacist that we know him to be. And in this movie, Luthor is, for the first time on film, an Earth supremacist. When he gets on about how Superman pisses him off, and he drips with disdain when he says the word alien, is something that is so spot on, and yet he's not speaking about Superman. He's speaking about an entire culture in which anybody who is different deserves to be rounded up and just gotten away with. And I love the fact that that Superman in the film, and this is something that would never happen with a Zack Snyder movie, is that it's kindness, decency, and hope in a world that has deemed those things out of date. I always wondered why they brought back the trunks after Man of Steel got rid of them, which I think was basically the one good design implement that they did. But him wearing the trunks takes us back to a different time. It literally puts him out of time and place. And that's what James Gunn. He wants you in the palm of his hand, and that's how he does it. And I love that he emphasizes the fact that this is another world. This isn't like the Marvel Cinematic Universe where we go to New York, we go to San Francisco, we go to these real places. These are fantasy realities that you can build from the ground up, and you don't have to be shackled to any continuity. And his Metropolis is the first time we've actually seen Metropolis feel like Metropolis. In Superman 1978, it's New York City. In Superman Returns, it's some weird steampunk Australian backlot that doesn't resemble anything that makes any goddamn sense. And here,
barely resembles the movie.
here they shot mostly in Atlanta, and yet they still make a viable New York metropolis without having the Statue of Liberty, without having the Twin Towers, without having any of that shit. It is Metropolis. And this movie has so many different interesting facets to it. I love that there's, in the middle of in maybe the first 40 minutes, there's a 10-minute talking scene in this movie that's supposed to be about crash, bang, whiz, wow. There's literally a scene where Lois Lane and Superman have a disagreement, and they talk, and the camera just cranes with them and follows them around Lois Lane's cramped apartment. And this goes on for 10 minutes. If you can imagine a world in which a superhero movie can get people to sit down and shut up for 10 minutes without somebody throwing a punch, I don't know how you do that, but he did it. And originally, the title of this movie was Superman Legacy. And I'm really glad they dropped Legacy, because I think that it's always the death knell when you put Legacy in the title of a sequel or a reboot or whatever. But the Legacy does still play into this, because James Gunn didn't want to change Superman. He wanted him to remain fundamental. He wanted him to remain a beacon of hope. But the parent twist of Jor-El wanting him to come to Earth and get a harem and basically take over the weak-minded humans, it's okay, because Jor-El is not always interpreted in the comics as a noble figure. So it's not taking something away. It's not rebuilding something out of whole cloth. It's taking something to its most logical extension. And that brings me to his Earth father, Jonathan Kent, played by Pruitt Taylor Vince.
Yay.
He gives the best performance in the entire film, despite the fact that he's on screen for 7 minutes, maybe even less. I still remember, I saw this movie by myself the first time on the day after opening day. I liked it, but I didn't love it. And then I took my family to go see it the next weekend, and I happened to be sitting next to my dad. And my dad is not an emotional person. It's very hard to connect with him on a one-to-one level. And that scene came up, and I was sobbing, just uncontrollable. I'm getting teared up right now. I swear to God, it's so embarrassing. It fundamentally like broke me for like 10 minutes, and then I needed the movie to come back up to speed so that I could go back into that world and not be trapped in my own neuroses. And the last thing I want to bring up is that I think one of the claims leveled against the movie is that we don't really get a lot of character development with certain characters, namely the Justice Gang. But if you listen to James Gunn's commentary, he discusses the fact that his first Superman issue was like Superman issue 383. So he's in the middle of a story. He has no idea who these characters are. He has no idea where they're going. He's literally learning this universe as it goes along. And considering that this is only the second installment, if you count the animated series Creature Commandos of the new DCU, then this is we're literally starting in the middle of the universe, because we're not doing a hard reboot. We're not doing an origin story. We're letting people catch up to these characters and figure out who they are as the story evolves. And I think that is smart and plays off well. And that's all I have to say. What do you guys have any questions about?
Let's start with your last point there, Ryan, about starting almost media res with these characters. Maybe that's fair, but I'm afraid that you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. So we're not supposed to know enough about these characters, but if we do know enough, he's still changing things vis-a-vis the parental switch there, where he was sent there to start a harem, which, again, this is so played out for Superman analogs. I mean, how many times have we seen this? I mean, we saw it with like Goku, for example. You know, it's like, it is not original. Superman does not need that. at all. So I think it is fair then to say, well, then what the heck else has changed with these characters? Because now I have to throw out all my assumptions about Guy Gardner? But I am familiar with the Green Lantern, so if we're going into this movie with the idea that it's a story already going on, I think it's a cheat because he's changing everything. It's not a story that's already going on. He's just starting, and there's nothing behind it to back it up.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I think that by starting 3 years into his life on Earth, I think that you understand what's going on. You don't necessarily need him to hold your hand. And if you go in there and you know Green Lantern, that's great. I'm sure you get more enjoyment out of it if you know who these characters are. But if you're learning who they are, then you're in the same place. You're basically being plopped into the middle of a universe and basically told, there's a long history here. And it's going to take some time, but we're going to get to it. You need to have what one of the filmmakers, who I can't even think of his name right now, he used to call them the mountains in the distance. You need to look and see that there's something there, that we're not telling that story yet, but eventually our boat will make it to the shore, and eventually from the shore we'll make it to the mountains. I think that's what Gunn is doing.
I don't have the confidence in Gunn that you do, that he adequately set that up. I feel we are going to end up being disappointed, but that is just pure conjecture on my part, so the other judges don't have to consider that. But I have no confidence based on this movie that we're going to get to those lofty heights that you are saying.
Ryan, is there ultimately like a source for this Superman that we see, or is it like a conglomeration of the kinds of Superman James Gunn likes? I mean, is this ultimately us watching James Gunn play with his action figures? No,
it's a synthesis of what Clark Kent and Kal-El have stood for what is it, 80, 90 years? It's not just him picking and choosing what he likes about it, but he is embellishing it with the things that he enjoys. Like he mentions in passing, the hypno goggles, which are the glasses that everybody wonders, well, how do you just put glasses on Kal-El and he becomes Clark Kent? Are people really that stupid? Well, in the 40s or 50s, they invented the idea of hypno goggles that look like regular eyeglasses, but to people who are not in on the know, they look at him and they see a different face than the face he actually puts on. Now, that's not something that necessarily stayed around, but it's something that I think actually enriches the character. So if that's just James Gunn going, I really like this element, then I'm willing to put my faith in him that he's picking the right elements. Because I'm not a Superman devotee. I'm more of a Batman guy. But I understand what he's doing, and I understand why he's doing it. And I don't think that he's definitely trying to appeal to the widest possible audience. So it's not him just making the most esoteric choices that he can possibly make. But definitely some of those choices are going to be esoteric. So we're just going to have to deal with that.
Ben, you got anything?
Yeah, I was the one that or a guy who looked very much like me was the one who prosecuted this.
Slightly handsomer than you.
I don't like this movie. I think it does take easy cheats to sort of make things happen. It does echo like things we know, like the traditional Superman film and things like that. But it just like takes what it wants and discards the others just as easily. But I'd like to actually ask you about like the Earth supremacist aspect of Lex Luthor, because I think like he touches on a lot of things that could have gone somewhere. Even with like Jor-El, he was like he could have been touching on like how people run crazy with the media, but like he doesn't really finish that thought because at the base of it all, Lex Luthor says he's just jealous of Superman. Like it's not really a hatred of the alien. Like there was commentary that they kind of touch on, but then they kind of like retreat from because he's just like kind of too scared to say that, you know, like he's scapegoating these people.
Are you saying Gunn's too scared to say, or Luthor's?
I think Gunn's too scared. Yeah,
okay.
It's gun shy.
Ooh, I completely disagree. I think that his antipathy towards aliens is what burns deepest in his soul. And I think that when that character is revisited, which it already has been in season 2 of Peacemaker, he's still developing that hatred. This is not, he's been there for 3 years, so I hated him the second he arrived, and now I'm just going to go walking around my little flying office and give people unwanted back rubs and throw pencils at people when I don't like them. I think that this is, you got to realize these are the first steps on the ground. They might be a little shaky sometimes, but there's definite intent in what he's doing. And it's the first time that Lex Luthor on screen has been allowed to be as xenophobic as possible. And
I was going to say, that this is not, it's different from what we normally do, but sort of to speak to my own justice, I think that the film is saying that people who have these kind of prejudices are deep down little more than envious. And Luthor comes out and admits that being his source of hatred.
But if we're using like real world analogs, I don't think like people are envious of like, say, immigrants, coming into the country. But
I think in certain cases that they are envious of what they think are the special privileges they're getting.
I think Gunn thinks these people are deep down envious. They're probably not really. I mean, Luthor hates Superman because he doesn't like that the world trusts him. He doesn't think that one man, unless of course it's him, should have as much power as Superman.
Keyword there, man.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing though, is that I get what you're saying with like Luthor being an Earth supremacist
or the man.
Yeah, but
man is the most important.
It's a little, because that's true, because Superman is just singular, right? And that's typically, now look, that's the thing, like Gunn can make up whatever he wants. It's his movie. Mm-hmm. But if he's going to invite these comparisons to what I already know about Luthor, and especially what I know about why Luthor hates Superman, this is pretty tepid, shallow stuff. Like he could have done better. Like I wish, he should have read like Superman for All Seasons. He could have read Ben. What's the Superman comic book where that Smallville's largely riffs off
Superboy? I have no idea.
No,
it's based it on All-Star Superman.
It's like the World of Tomorrow or something like that. I'd have to look it up again. But the point
I'm not a
is,
DC guy.
When we see Luthor really hating Superman, Luthor's too smart for this, especially the post-crisis Luthor. He's just too smart for it to be this pettiness. He does have larger schemes at work. And Ryan, I've known you've seen how Justice League Unlimited ends with Lex Luthor teaming up with Superman, solving the anti-life equation. Lex Luthor is so much bigger than this kind of like I mean, you said Bond villain to pejoratively describe him. I mean, he's very much a Bond villain in this. I mean, if he wants to just, he has a clone of Superman. You know what I mean? Like he has answers to his problems, and the Lex Luthor that fans would expect, they would expect him to be a little more diabolical, a little more calculating, but the movies for some reason just can't get away from Gene Hackman. He has to be too cartoony. He has to be too evil. I mean, look at his ditzy girlfriend. That's a complete callback to the kind of woman that the Lex Luthor in the 70s movies would have dated. That's not the Lex Luthor that we would have seen in the animated series or Superman for All Seasons. So
a hologram.
I'm just saying that I don't see the reverence for the material, for the understanding, for the evolution that you're arguing here. I don't think Gunn really respects Superman as a character. I think he was much more interested in characters like Mr. Terrific, in like the Justice Gang, in Hawkgirl. Is she an alien too? We don't really know. There's a whole can of
She murders that dude.
Which is one of the points. Which is one of the points that the movie is discussing, because you go back to that 10-minute argument they're having. It's all about, what does Superman intervening look like? How much can he do? How much should he do? And then just at the end, you have the Justice Gang, which is controlled by another billionaire, another private interest, just kill a world leader, which is a whole different kind of can of worms. And I have no confidence in Gunn based on this movie, not based on Gunn as a director. Like Slither is really good. I mean, I think he hit his stride with Guardians of the Galaxy. I think he has a certain voice. He's getting close to hack territory. I won't go that far. We had this conversation before. But he's a bad fit for Superman, because the stuff he's interested in and the stuff he's interested in exploring doesn't work for Superman. It does work for the Justice Gang, and that's why they're in there so much. It does work for a petty and venal bad guy, but that's not who Lex Luthor has become. So I just don't think Gunn is ready there. I think he had to hit the books a bit more to get this over the top. And you mentioned how much you loved the Kents. I mean, we see them being like country bumpkins. It's very insulting. The Kents
and they're
were
barely
always
in it.
they were always very salt of the earth, very Steinbeckian, like backbone of America kind of characters. And I want to I respect the fact that it made you emotional and everything. Like we all have things in movies that can get to us, but like he's talking about like burritos and stuff. You have Ma Kent yelling into a cell phone. I don't think there's any reverence for Superman. And more importantly, I don't think there's any reverence for the Kents, really. And that's really the biggest crime here.
Well, I don't have any further questions. I'll admit it. If you guys have any further ones before we...
No, I already know which direction this is headed.
Well, I know where I'm going. And with respect to Ryan, because I love Ryan, I love this movie all you want. But we got it right. I'm sorry, it's guilty.
I agree. This is not a Superman that I recognize. I agree with that. That kind of hit me as a shock the first time I watched it. But with the second time, I was a lot more prepared for it. I do think it's just James Gunn playing with his action figures. I do that. I understand how he's cherry-picked things from legitimate sources, but none of this existed in one time in one place before him. He's pulled all these things, and this is now his Superman. So if they called it James Gunn's Superman, which I in my head I'm going to call it, that might do a lot of lifting, because that's how I see it. So
just say Elseworld Superman. Maybe I'd go along for it.
Basically, James Gunn's Elseworld Superman kind of a thing. So this is an interpretation of it. It's not exactly my Superman, but it was colorful, it was fun, it was inoffensive, and it was well made. So at least for me, I'll overturn it. I'll go not guilty. We'll leave this one on Ben.
And it had robots.
Oh, I don't want
Did have robots, man, and a dog.
Man, I feel like I did last year when Ryan did The Last Jedi, where it's just like, I dislike the things about it. And I don't know that we really overturn like any of those specific reasons why it's bad. But the problem is, if I say it's good, like people, it's something that people just look to so much that they'll say, then it's great. Like if you say it's not bad, then it's great. And it's not. It has so many problems. He just gets so close to all these ideas about people running with, the media and the racism and all of this. And he just doesn't really complete any of those thoughts. And it isn't Superman, and that's really problematic. He just like tries to like have little bits of it to sort of have his version and say, well, I'm skipping my first act, so I don't have to set anything up. It's a choice I made, and therefore it's the right choice. But I do see the way like people kind of like how hopeful it is. I think they run too much with that. I think just because he didn't go the Snyder way and make things dark, the fact that it's hopeful is what makes people like it. So I can't discard.
What's the hope? Where's the hope coming from?
That's a good question.
It is, because I don't see a lot of hope in this.
I would say
Superman
that
being
speech he has with
I think Superman's
the right thing.
I think, punk rock is, kindness is the new punk rock. I think like Superman's bearing is meant to be like what gives people that hope. Like these are the kinds of people we need to be.
He's strong and gentle.
When those citizens are being pushed back from the armies, they raise not a flag of their nation. They raise the S of Superman.
That bugs me too.
One guy they can count on.
They should be rising up themselves rather than looking to Superman to save them.
You sound like Lex
Luthor.
Yourself,
yeah. Come on, kids.
Ben has just become full Luthor. I love it.
He went full villain, just like nothing. Save yourself, kids.
This is not a great movie, but I guess I like what it's trying to do, and I think for what the people who appreciate it, I think it succeeds for them. So I'm gonna stand by. I dislike it. But just like Last Jedi, which is like it's not.
Wait, Ben, before you walk in, the rest of the appeals of justice, you were kicking yourself for overturning Last Jedi the whole time. Don't make that same mistake again here, man.
Not guilty.
Oh man.
I hope he kicks himself now.
He's going to.
Ow!
Ben,
you have more lines, Ben.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So the decision for ROJ-510, The People versus Superman, has been overturned. Damn me. Superman 2025 is found not guilty of being a bad movie. Are we ready to hear the next case?
Here we go. ROJ-545, The People versus Paranormal Activity. A 2007 found footage horror film about a couple dealing with supernatural phenomena in their home over the course of several days. Mr. Maynard Bangs, you are representing the defense. You may proceed with your first exhibit.
Well, I know we don't usually do opening statements, but I got to do my thing anyway. So
you got to do it, Banks. You got to do it.
My sweetheart's gonna put me in her movie, a monument to our love infernally, and show the whole world just how we killed her boyfriend. And all I gotta do is act paranormally. Oh, here I come a-creeping up the stairway, the moment I rekindle our flame. There I go, dragging her down the stairway. You know, cat and mouse is her favorite game. I hope my sweet darling puts me in her movie. Her devotion to me is true and plain to see. It's an idea sure to make 200 million. And all I gotta do is act paranormally. All right, thank you. Let's see, not guilty, right?
All right, overturned. Next case.
Next case.
If only I had a song for the next case. Oh, well.
The word of the day is verisimilitude. It is the appearance or semblance of truth in art or film. It refers to the quality of seeming real rather than being strictly true. So it's when a piece of fiction attempts to imitate real life. And it is the word of the day when talking about found footage films like Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity is a horror film devoted to its verisimilitude. It must keep up the appearance of being legitimate home video footage in order to achieve its goal of presenting a story as told through the perspective of footage recorded by fictional characters involved. And I think the critiques we heard from the prosecution originally in this case are not critiques really at all, just an acknowledgement of the high level of verisimilitude the film successfully achieves. A lot was made about the film's slow pacing. That slow pace is absolutely intentional because the real world is often mundane. It moves in real time, relatively slowly. It's not the fun and exciting place we see in movies. There's oftentimes we don't know what to say. Sometimes we even repeat ourselves, and oftentimes we don't know what to say. That's reality. And this is an intentional feature of the film done in order to simulate home video footage and increase verisimilitude. The dialogue was another point of contention made. The dialogue in this film, it's completely unscripted. There is no script for this movie. The director told his actors what should happen, and they had to ad-lib all of their dialogue. That's a completely intentional choice to achieve the verisimilitude with the way people actually speak. But most importantly, actually speak around a running camera. It's not the intention of the filmmakers to capture the way two people naturally speak one-on-one privately. Always what we see is characters behaving in front of a camera knowingly, and people behave differently in front of a running camera. I know this from filming certain events like weddings, just hanging out with friends and recording things. Subjects knowingly being filmed behave and speak differently. This phenomenon could be related to what's known as the Hawthorne effect, although that usually relates more to how people behave ethically or quite deliberately in front of observers. But it still applies to Ben.
Can you give us a quick definition of the Hawthorne effect?
It's that people monitor their own behavior more when they're being observed, and they act more ethically when they are knowingly being observed.
All right, context clues made that make sense. I just wanted it on the record.
Or they're more conscious of the way they speak and behave because of a camera. But the way I think we see it in this picture and in this film, and in the way that I mean it, is that the subject kind of acknowledges the camera as the third person in the room. They almost speak broadly to the hypothetical future audience that one day sits on the other side of the camera and watches the footage. So we don't naturally sit there and go, oh, well, Mika did this. And we don't speak in third persons like that. But people do in front of a camera when they're sort of knowingly speaking to the audience that will watch it back one day. They narrate their actions. They sometimes say what they're feeling. You can watch back any childhood birthday party and you will see this effect. People speak differently when they would when no camera is around. And I think this film really captures that very well with our two main characters. It sounds like two people who are sitting home, making home video footage, how they would talk to each other, kind of cracking jokes. They're not the happiest couple in the world. They argue. They kind of argue around the camera. You can see the camera kind of turns off when those things happen. And I think all of this really increases the verisimilitude of the film. I think if you weren't told that this was an independent fictional film, you could be made to believe that this happened, that there's wild, unbelievable things that happen in it, but you would believe that this is something that could happen in the real world. Nothing is ever totally impossible to make you not believe that. I don't know if you have questions on that. Otherwise, I can move on to murder
I
stuff
have a
and we can
question.
open to more questions. Sure, Ryan.
Regarding the found footage genre, I feel about found footage the way that Dylan feels about superhero movies.
Love it.
I honestly think that it's an excuse to be amateurish in terms of the aesthetic and the directorial choices that are made in a film. Would you say that this is a superlative example of the found footage genre? Not necessarily what I think about it, but in general, in your eyes, where would you put this on the spectrum of?
I think this
found
is the
footage?
second best found footage movie ever made after Blair Witch.
Okay.
I think this is the next one. The reason
High
I like found
praise.
footage is that it puts you into the shoes of specific characters. They're almost like first-person perspective films, but rather than seeing them from their eyes, we see it from the camera's lens. So you have to kind of go with that conceit of, well, we found the footage later. But really, especially with Blair Witch, you're in the woods. You're those kids. You're watching it in their shoes. You're being chased by a witch. It's fucking happening to you. In Paranormal Activity, your house is being haunted or turns out possessed by a demon. And you have to deal with that. It's happening to you. And this is a great way to frame horror, especially because it really pins your perspective. You don't get to look around, right? If you hear a sound behind you, you don't get to just look. The camera stays in one place. And that is a ton of anxiety for when you want to look at sounds and you want to look around, but you're stuck being in like one kind of perspective, always forced to kind of in a tunnel vision. And it's important to pull yourself into these movies because it demands that you give yourself over to the film. Is a slamming door the scariest thing you'll ever see in a movie? Fuck no, it doesn't even rate. Would it be the scariest thing to ever happen to you if it happened alone in your room at night? Yes, you would never sleep again. Surrendering yourself over to the world is what's necessary. But in turn, the film has to give you something back. It can't stray the lines of credulity too far. The supernatural activity has to stay reined in enough. And that's why this one is like the second best. Nothing here that happens couldn't be hoaxed, right? So if you ever found this footage, you could go, oh, this whole thing's a hoax. You know, nothing in here couldn't be explained away as, doors just kind of moving. I think hoax is probably the best with her being dragged out of bed, though. But I think that's what skeptics would eliminate this with is as a hoax. And so I think this keeping it so grounded, staying close to the ground, makes you believe that it could happen, and therefore maybe it did.
All right, so Maynard, you mentioned
verisimilitude.
Verisimilitude.
Oh, our big word guy doesn't know how to say verisimilitude.
Yeah, you got me. You finally got me. So truthiness in pictures, let's say. So how is this movie being presented? How are we supposed to watch this? Is this a cut together documentary? Is this police evidence? Because the whole point of found footage is someone finds it. For example, in Troll Hunter, the footage arrived at a movie studio, and that's why that movie's put together the way it is. The Blair Witch has its own contrivance. What are we looking at here in the Paranormal Activity movie?
Well, the movie starts with Paramount Pictures would like to thank the family of Mika and Katie, as well as the police department. So it's clearly Paramount Pictures producing this, putting it out as a documentary. Now, I know we discussed this earlier, and what you're looking for is some examples of a genre that we know as archival or found footage documentaries.
We didn't discuss that. It was completely some other guy.
Archival documentaries is really the term, and they're rare for a very specific reason, because you need a crap ton of source footage in order to put them together. For them to exist, you basically need enough raw footage of a subject where all of the context of that subject is there in the footage, and you don't need second, interviews and a lot of title cards. But they do exist. I think one of the best ones that we can talk about, and I really only need one, but one of the best ones to talk about is 1989's For All Mankind. It documents the Apollo mission program. It's entirely NASA footage taken all during the missions. There's no interviews from astronauts taken later. It's all audios from astronauts at the time. So it is all source material, sort of covering that entire mission program. and putting you into it.
I'm looking at it right now.
Another great one, Heavy Metal Parking Lot from 1986. It's only about 30 minutes, but it's entirely just footage filmed in this parking lot before a Judas Priest concert, which gives you a snapshot of the fans of this Judas Priest concert. Of course, post Paranormal Activity, you'll see more examples. There's Apollo 11 from 2019. It's again about the moon landing. And I think They Shall Not Grow Old, Peter Jackson's World War I documentary, mostly used archival footage and audio from veterans. It didn't really use any modern narration. So it's a documentary type effect. But you're asking is, what are they trying to put out? I think the idea is that these incidents clearly happened in a fictional world. In that fictional world, right, those characters filmed it. And that footage has been recovered by somebody who has pieced it out and put it together in some sort of a documentary or true crime retrospective that gives you a sneak peek on everything that happened in that incident to kind of give you the inside track and the inside view of what really happened here. I think they're usually considered mockumentaries because it's kind of following a documentary style. But I think the idea is that this is some sort of a behind the scenes of a true crime. And we have all the inside track. We know how it happened from these people's own words because we happen to have all the footage.
So it's kind of like Dateline without the narration, and there's other examples of this that exist, and they're called archival documentaries.
Yeah, they are called archival. Nowadays, found footage documentary has almost completely been taken over by found footage horror. So
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
All right, I'm very satisfied with that answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, you also asked too. I know in the jury it asked, why wouldn't they leave? Right. Well, ultimately, I think the big breaking point to me is when she's dragged out of bed. Right. That's the first time they're really touched. Right. And it is after she's dragged out of bed the next day that Mika
Didn't she have scratches?
She might have scratches, but you could explain that to being scratching yourself in your sleep. I mean, I scratch myself in my sleep. So
I don't scratch you while you're sleeping. Okay.
Thank you. I am itchy. I don't think people would move out of their entire house, which these people moved into their house within the year. They're relatively new there. Moving's a real bitch. Up until someone's actually gotten touched and moved, I think they're interested in sticking it out. The Dr. Frederick's character does flatly tell them leaving will do nothing.
Well, they also establish it's attached to Katie, right? Like you can leave, but it wouldn't help.
Katie knows that this thing has followed her since she was 8 years old
they
and
assume,
burned down the house.
They assume correctly, but they don't know.
The later films would confirm that Katie knows a hell of a lot more about this than she ever let on. But we don't see that. We don't see
she
that.
Got Mika killed for nothing.
Correct. We don't see that in.
Wait, so she sent Mika away? No, he didn't want to go though.
Mika did want to go. So the point is, after she's dragged out of bed, it's the very next day that Mika actually finally wants to leave and burns the crucifix, and that's when Katie doesn't want to leave because the crucifix is gone and she's been completely possessed. So I'd say the breaking point. At that point, it's already too late, and there's really nowhere for them to go. And I know, Schlender, you also were worried that they had enough proof and that they could have just left the house and that would have been it. But
Maynard, they had enough proof. They could have left the house.
But they didn't have enough proof for a skeptic. We've watched enough Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Witness to know there's compelling enough looking footage out there, and skeptics still dismiss it. I mean, the most concrete thing we see in this movie is the burning Ouija board, which you were like, oh, that's, undeniably real proof. Any skeptic can dismiss that as a hoax. They had some kind of flammable liquid on the board or a hot heat source under the coffee table that would cause the board to
describing how they did the physical
and that's
effect.
exactly my point. That's exactly how the filmmakers did it. And since the filmmakers were able to do this completely practically in camera effects, so would any other hoaxer. Which again,
God damn those skeptics,
really helps create the verisimilitude. Other than the dumb demon face at the end, which I don't like, there are 2 better alternate endings to this movie that don't confirm anything actually supernatural happens. All of this could be in their heads, and she could just kind of be a murderer.
Oh, that would have been neat. Well, my principal objections in how I related to Marty and Cliff's case, I feel a lot of that has been addressed, so I don't think I need to hear anymore, but if you guys have any questions.
No, pitch perfect, no notes. Could have said it better myself, did earlier, but you guys needed that whipped cream.
Did you say verisimilitude?
I did not, but I would have had I had another 30 minutes. No, great.
Yeah, it's easy
great
when you
appeal.
don't have other people.
I agree with everything you said. You nailed it.
I hate this movie. I hate it with a fucking passion. I hate it with a white hot passion that could melt a Ouija board. Makes me so angry. The fact that this movie exists. But Rob, you son of a bitch, you got me on your side. So I'm going to go not guilty.
I'm going to go not guilty.
Unanimous
Yeah,
overturn.
Unanimous overturn. No, it was really good. I think the archival documentary is really what put it over the top for me. That's what I wanted to hear. I like, okay, that tracks. I still
The
don't really
appeals.
like
I feel
it,
bad
though.
for the one person who's going to do double jeopardy and make something guilty. Jeez.
I don't feel bad for them because I know what they're doing because I get to present it.
Wait,
Our last case-
Ryan has to say the thing's overturned.
Oh, yes, please.
The decision in ROJ-552, The People versus Paranormal Activity, has been overturned. Paranormal Activity is found not guilty of being a bad movie. Mr. Schlender, let's move on to our final case.
Yes, sir, Mr. Rodriguez. Our last case today is ROJ-002. That's right. The second episode ever. And it gets mentioned a lot, so fans will know I'm talking about The People versus Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I also recently learned that we did not do intros so early in our career. So here we go. Let's see what I got. The 8th installment of the Friday the 13th series finds Jason terrorizing teens on a luxury boat and then chasing them through the grimy streets of NYC. Mr. Big Ben, you are representing the prosecution. You may proceed with your case.
Double jeopardy.
Yes.
Double jeopardy.
Your honors, I would like to address that second ever case, since double jeopardy is allowed in the cinematic legal system. It's true. Look it up. So I think this is worth
did it before.
examining. And I think this is one of the ones that set a bad precedent early on. Friday the 13th is undoubtedly made its mark on cinema, and people are quick to point out which of the bunch stand out as the best of the franchise, which films say the most about Jason, his mother, his motivations, has the best gratuitous violence and nudity, which of these films essentially is the most visceral. And by that same token, we want to explore which of these is the worst, which is often a less contentious field, since if we're sticking to the original Paramount films before New Line took over with Jason Goes to Hell, the answer undoubtedly circles around Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, a.k.a. Jason on a Cruise Ship, a.k.a. Jason Goes to Vancouver, ha 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 ha. The false promise that was given and elucidated very astutely by original prosecutor Ryan Luis Rodriguez is that the promise that wasn't given to us. They had planned all along that this would take place in New York, and they had like great grand dreams of like him being on the Brooklyn Bridge or whatever, but their reach exceeded their grasp. And also there was an original idea of him being on a cruise ship, which they also had to scale down because they didn't have the budget for it. But we do get brief glimpses of what they had in mind. The city does have barrels of toxic sludge, and the sewer of America's most populated city is flooded by more of this sludge every night. This is clearly very silly, even by franchise standards. You know, what fresh Sega Genesis beat 'em up hell video game is this? It's more akin to like Ninja Turtles territory than anything to do with Jason or his raison d'etre. They clearly ran out of ideas several sequels ago. And even by Friday standards, a lot of what we're looking for is missing. Like Part 7 before it, there's not that much sex or gore that would complete the experience. And the fault lies there with the censors for sure. They were a little more puritanical at that point in time. Where like films today might get away with a little bit more. But the fact remains, the lack of what we get is still a part of the published experience that we are here to evaluate. The intentions are all woulda, coulda, shoulda. Similarly, the story on this, not much of a cruise ship. It's not Manhattan. It's not even a fully realized Jason on a boat, which was one of the original ideas. It's working with what they had available to them and not enough of what they do have, like Kelly Who. The teens are very uninteresting here. I think by this point, we're just really interested in Jason killing them than what any of these characters have to contribute. The visions of baby Jason are confusing and not really complete. In the original trial, I believe it was posited that this is a power creep for Jason, which I don't really buy because this baby kind of shows up to torment both Jason and the victim. So like there's really not much of an explanation there you can grab onto. And it all seems that mostly here is just to hold your attention until we get to New York, which isn't the payoff it needed to be. Yeah, you get that boombox thing and admittedly a very great scene where Jason knocks Julius's block off, but 2 or 3 amusing bits does not a good film make. It's pretty bad, but a lot of the defense's case was, well, come on, it's fun. And I'm here to say to you all, that's fine. Something can be bad and still be enjoyable. And this is a perfect example of that. The fact that the defense was alluding to watching this at 2 a.m. when everyone else is asleep, in their basement, sequestered away from judgmental household eyes, eating pizza that will wreak havoc on the bowels of anyone past 40, it can be a very fun time, but is far removed from the films watched at 7 p.m. with throngs of invested viewers. And again, that's okay. It's okay to enjoy cheap, bad things. We can have expensive Bordeaux wines, but we can't have them every time. Boxed wine has its place. Sometimes you just need something cheap, but gets the job done. And similarly, that place is in your basement when the art of the craft is less important and just having fun with your buds is. Just because a movie is deemed bad does not deem it worthless, but it is bad.
I will say objection. The original defense said he was going to watch it at 2 a.m., but his friends were with him in the basement. He wasn't alone.
Yeah, he did mention that he was watching it with his
He wasn't
brothers.
watching it in a crowded movie theater, though.
Oh, no.
I'm sure this didn't go to movie.
I believe he used the term as like a slumber party movie.
Aw.
Yeah, which
Like Wedding
I
Planner.
can see. Is it really? I don't know. So
Now-
are you saying like Wedding Planner is the chick flick version of Jason Takes Manhattan? Because I could get behind that.
Murder made
if it helps. If it helps you.
I don't know who it helps.
Now, Ben, to me, a lot of the problem you're making here is with the title, like that it's this promise made but never fulfilled, you know? But I mean, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, promise made, never fulfilled. It's a Jurassic Park.
Well, it was
Most of those
fulfilled.
dinosaurs aren't even from the Jurassic, you know? So, does the title... does the second half of the title matter as much as Friday the 13th? I sat down and watched this in a vacuum starting around midnight, so right around the time that our original defense wanted me to. And honestly, I had a pretty okay time the whole time. I just tried to divorce myself from the title.
But you know that now going in, Your Honor, right?
Exactly.
Like if you're like approaching this and like, ooh, this is the new Friday the 13th film, and even with the final chapter, I think they had all intentions to make that the final chapter. It's just like, okay, well, we have more money, so we're going to start a new production with a whole different team. Some people returning to make that happen, but that isn't the case here. The plan was Jason in New York. He was going to be on the Brooklyn Bridge. There were going to be chases. Like the scene where he fights Julius was going to be in Madison Square Garden. So like all of that, they had to scrap. But they had to keep that one interesting idea that they had. So, I don't even like the whole reason I think a lot of people would go is because of the Manhattan aspect. I think most people had felt that the franchise, except for the diehard fans, has been very well played at this point. So they needed something new. They needed something new in the previous one when they had him fight against Carrie. They're looking for that new hook. And
it kind of was a new hook though, in a way. And also in defense of the final chapter, Jason, the Friday the 13th Part 5 isn't Jason. So in a way it did deliver. It wouldn't be till 6 where Jason comes back. But your point's well taken. Now, I know there was an expert witness. God, guys, we did this 6 years ago. That's insane. That came on and he talked about,
I can still smell the fresh paint.
Yeah, I know,
Schlender
right?
was still overhead pressing the same amount.
It's gone up a bit. Actually, it is, but I weigh a lot less, so it's much more impressive.
You're right.
That's a good point.
I have to believe that.
Because if that's not true, then what are we doing? So anyway, my point is, Judge Bangs' point about maybe putting too much on the title is important, but I do think there is some purchase there because when he does get to New York, he does just kind of run through Times Square about once,
and that's really about it. Yeah, the rest of it is Vancouver.
Yeah, and then, here's the other thing too. I can understand if you can't do the grand New York things you want to do. But like New York doesn't get flooded with toxic waste. It doesn't have toxic waste barrels. I mean, like there are still like other low budget New Yorky things you probably could have gotten away with. I mean, I'm leaning the way you're leaning, Ben. We did not have good jurisprudence. It was our second episode.
I think
and
we
was
wanted
much
to be
less
more
jaded.
optimistic then.
Yeah, and
We
it's like,
wanted-
oh, it's fun. Like if you're having fun with the movie and stuff like that. But I think we've really have come around on the idea of like, look, there are bad movies that can be fun, because if you're not watching this movie, like a good movie's good no matter what, right? If you're not watching this movie with the right frame of mind under the right circumstances, it's excruciating. Like if you had to watch this like at noon on Sunday, like while everyone's outside having a great time,
Yep.
you'd hate it. You know what I
Did you
mean?
watch this?
No,
I
did
was
watch-
hanging out with you at noon on Sunday, so no.
Yeah,
We need to
yeah,
wait
that's
12
true.
hours and go into the basement, and then it'll start being cool.
No, but here is the thing though. I could totally see like my buddies when we did stay up late and we would put in the R-rated movies. Like this is definitely the kind of movie we would put in. We would have thought we were hot shit and getting away with something when we were kids. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do, and I feel bad too because I think a lot of what you're saying was a lot of Ryan's original argumentation, and I don't think we gave it the proper weight that we should have. Again, 6 years ago, it was our second episode ever, and we were still feeling things out. So I think this was an important one to actually bring up and correct the record on. So I'm ready to lock in if you guys are, if there's any other questions.
I mean, I'm not entirely convinced. Do you know the minute at what point he does finally reach Manhattan in the total runtime?
It's like the third
hour
act.
mark.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, it's like an hour. I think he's in there for about 20 minutes, give or take. And then
'Cause it
even
felt
while
like
he's
longer
there-
in my watch, I forgot to note it, but I mean, he seemed to be in New York, and granted, he's in tunnels and stuff. He's not running through
alleyways,
the streets,
yeah.
cutting everyone, but he seemed to be. The boat seemed to got there closer to the 40-minute mark when I was paying attention.
you'd have to double check.
That's when they're at least the boat sinks and they get off the boat and they.
You know what I love? I love it when Jason dies and lightning strikes the Statue of Liberty. It's like, what the hell's that?
Well, he's gonna come back, man. Through the
That's
Statue
just
of
kind of
Liberty,
like
dude.
this.
Come on.
See, like that's the thing. Like it is just so stupid. It's so bad. It's entertaining though. That's really where I'm coming down at, because here's
Do
the
you
thing.
think it's
if you're-
unaware of it? Because I watched this very much in the way I would watch Jason X, where it's like, Jason goes to space? Why? Well, because
Yeah.
it's just another place for Jason to kill people. And all he needs is another background of which to be thrown against to kill people. Who
No,
cares that
and
it
I
makes
think they
sense?
wanted to have more fun with it, and there were limitations that stifled that vision, because obviously the things
Yeah,
that
this
we heard
financial
that they
one,
really
yeah.
wanted to do. And I think when the push came to shove and their backs were up against the wall, they weren't able to make those decisions that would have otherwise saved it, like dumping the professor in the barrel. I mean, the best thing is the Julius head punch, right? Like that's a great kill for Jason. It's iconic. That's the only thing this movie really has.
Wait, him
going
dissolving
for
in
it.
the toxic waste at the end is cool too.
No, it's not.
No.
He
Yeah,
turns
it's
into like the
really-
baby like crawls out of his eye, and you're like, what the hell was that
Yeah,
about?
like, what- well, I mean, him dissolving, him turning into the child again at the end
If
is
he-
weird.
Yeah, but that's a part of it. That's what happens. If he
Yeah.
just dissolved, then fine. But that's not what happens. You're
Okay,
like,
but
well,
I
wait,
said
there's
the
that
dissolve
baby
part was
again.
Cool. That's what we were talking about.
And here's the
dissolve
thing, though, is like you have other examples in this franchise that I think hit these notes better, like Jason X, but going in the other direction too. If you want to move away from the humor, actually stick with the humor too. Jason Lives Part 6, really like great, funny meta stuff in there as well. So I think even within the context of other Friday the 13th films, it falls short in every possible way a Friday the 13th movie could fall short. Final Chapter is pretty scary and dreadful, and 6 is funnier, X is funnier and gorier, and like they really get to do the I almost said beanbag, the sleeping bag kill that they always really wanted to do.
And they do the liquid nitrogen blast.
Yeah,
Which
Jason
is-
X is
yeah,
perfect. We know
Jason-
that. Not guilty.
No, we know.
But
No, that's what I'm saying. So I just
But as
don't
far
think
as 8
there's
also
no
has a
way
tremendously
8
high
can
body
measure
count.
up.
It's 23 kills in this movie, which is very high. For a
23
Friday the
lame
13th.
kills, like maybe 2 cool
They're not-
ones.
There's a few fine ones, but then sometimes you have to go with a quantity over quality thing. Remember, you're watching with your friends. You just want to see everyone start getting whacked left and right.
No, you want to see everyone get whacked, and you want to see blood. You want it to be
There
vicious.
Yeah,
could
and
be
you
more
don't get
blood.
that.
There's
You're
a
not wrong
lot
about
of
that, but that's the
cutaways.
stupid
Lot of
video nasty
cutaways.
era of the 80s. That's not this movie. Everything they were cracking down. on
What you're
censorship.
judging is the completed experience.
Yes, and Ben's right there. Like Maynard, if you made a pie and then there was a law that said you had to put too much salt in it, it's going to be a bad pie. It might not be your fault, but it is a bad pie.
Or if you made a pie and I like sucked all the the filling from it, and it's like, well, it's not your fault that I took the filling. I drank your milkshake, but at the end of the day, you still have that empty cup.
I'm not letting either of you fuck people near my pie.
It's the law, Maynard. All right, guys, I think we should lock it in. What do we got? Maynard, why don't you go first? Go ahead. Give it the pity vote.
It's not a pity vote. I really mean it. I tried to remove the title from my watch, you know, and after that,
like, Your Honor, you can't do it. The title's a part of it.
No, but it doesn't need to be the most important one.
This isn't like Trail Mix where you can just like pick out the nuts.
The title is Jason Takes Manhattan, and in fact, he does take Manhattan. The title never tells you when he's going to take it, or or how long he's going to stay. As long as he took it before the credits start. Title fulfilled. Jason took Manhattan.
No, it's one of the lame things that happens, though. That's the whole point. It's not about the title per se, but that's just another piece of straw on the camel's back. You know what I mean? So even if you take that away, you still have the numerous deficiencies of Jason creeping
once
around
you took that away,
weird baby stuff.
You had an 80s Friday the 13th that had one Kane Hodder as Jason, so excellent performance as Jason. You've got
which they wanted to cut him, by the way. He had to fight for that role.
Well, I'm glad. And you have a ton of teenagers who you get to kill. I mean, so it's definitely a quantity over quality, but you get lots and lots and lots of kills. And so
boring teenagers.
The way that the original defense was talking about it, it's definitely like a nighttime VHS passive slasher kind of marathon movie. But I do think it satisfies. You watch it the whole way. You are interested in all the kills.
Hey, you're giving it the pity vote. Just lock it in.
It's not a pity vote. I do think it is not guilty as far as this series goes.
Okay.
It's an interesting
I want to take back my Paranormal Activity vote.
Maynard is locking in the pity vote. That's fine. I'm going guilty on this one. Long overdue.
Get it anyway. See, Ben.
Well, I hate Ben, but I'm gonna go guilty anyway.
You hate me? What?
We all hate Ben.
Your Honor, I want to change my Superman vote too.
I told you. I told you. Oh, all right. The decision in ROJ-002 from 6 years ago.
Turning everything.
The People versus Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan has been overturned. Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan is found guilty of being a bad movie. And gentlemen,
Triple Jeopardy.
Court is adjourned.
Triple Jeopardy!
I'm the only one who worked within his time.
Oh, that was a fun one. I think we just... So, Ben, what keeps you busy when you're not here? Everyone hates you.
Oh, you know.
This is Benderson Cooper reporting to you live from outside the Reels of Justice, with 4 cases being overturned.
Oh.
Yeah, no, tell me about it. The court today dared to slip the surly bonds of sound movie jurisprudence and touch the face of hackery. As Ebert cackles from hell at our plight, all we can do is hope that Season 6 provides us shelter from the barbarians that will surely overly power... Bleh.
This was Season 6.
See, Benderson Cooper's not so easy, is he?
No, he's not. As Ebert cackles from hell at our plight, all we can do is hope that Season 6 provides us shelter from the barbarians that will easily overpower our limp gates. And this is me being optimistic. Benderson Cooper out.
I know Benderson Cooper, and you, sir, are no Benderson Cooper.
How dare you?
But this was Season 6, so you mean that Season 7 provides us shelter from the barbarians?
Oh, it does? Well, Benderson, okay, I'll read it again.
We're done with Season 6 now, right?
Yeah.
No, we're keeping your mistake now.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Well,
now we'll be moving on to Season 7.
Well, I'm looking forward to Season 7. It's got to be like, what, a month away,
Lucky
Maynard?
number 7. It's next week.
Oh, my God.
Better get ready. We don't take any time off.
6 years, no breaks, every week. We're
all gas, no breaks with it.
Man, it's insane. It's
I don't know any other
Sentai.
podcast that does that.
There's a handful, but not
more
many.
sense than
We're kind of an elite category, my guys.
So you say.
Sweet. I do say
Or we have
yes.
no friends and no lives.
Who's
It should be.
Who's
gonna fight me? I've been overhead pressing over 200 pounds for 6 years. It's been documented in this show.
Yeah, I'm gonna be more. Well, anyway, so then I guess we always ask our guests for recommendations, but we don't have any. So, Ben, why don't you tell us your recommendation?
Last year, I watched a film for Dylan. The year before that, it was Maynard. This year, I watched something for Ryan. But it's tough to find something that he hasn't seen. So I elected to watch one of his favorite things, Twin Peaks. But not having time to dive into the whole series, I could only choose one thing to get a glimpse into that world. A twin peak, if you will.
Huh.
Pause for laughter. My first choice was the 1989 film, which is essentially the first few episodes of which the show edited together into a European cut, but I could not find that anywhere. The next best thing I reasoned would be the prequel, Fire Walk with Me. And I'll admit, because I haven't seen the show, or maybe because I'm a bit dense to the type of symbolism that Lynch seems to love, there were things going on here that I flat out did not understand. Anything with that Green Lantern ring or Kyle MacLachlan's character or that little guy, I could not follow. But of what I could follow, which is Laura's story, was pretty interesting. Laura, a pretty high school queen, prom queen who seems to be the apple of everyone's eye, is living a very unenviable life beneath the surface, addicted to drugs, trading sex for favors, and arguably her own validation, and being, quote-unquote, had by a malevolent force named Bob since she was 12. Laura is anything but happy. And as a result, Lynch portrays her with a very fractured sort of being. The narrative just lurches about, I believe very intentionally, as Laura navigates this myriad of lovers and even prostitution, and as these forces that plague her all wrap up towards the film's conclusion, supernatural explanations begin to take the forefront as we explore themes of what we all seek, answers and absolution. I don't want to give too much detail away because I suspect it might spoil the prequel and maybe even the entire show for all I know. But having only seen this, I have no earthly idea what that show could be about. That green power ring and Kyle MacLachlan taking it to Mount Doom. I have no idea. Ryan might fill me in after the recording. But in the meantime, the themes of this are very heavy, but I think topics that shouldn't be swept under the rug and very interesting.
Did you like this one, Ryan?
I love it.
This is your jam.
I love all Twin Peaks.
Including the European pilot?
Now, there's some good
all
pie,
they did was add 15
Maynard.
minutes to the ending, and I can just pretend that didn't happen. So,
So it's
I
not
just
even
look
a
at it
good
as the
15
pilot.
minutes. You don't even care about the 15 minutes. It's not even worth
The
it.
15 minutes are not great.
Okay. Don't find
Did
it.
I get it
then.
right?
Not worth it.
Did I get it right that I wasn't supposed to understand the stuff with the green ring and that little guy, or what were the answers there?
That's everything that David Lynch does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
that
not
makes
supposed to
sense.
understand it.
Yeah, I don't think he gets it. Like, he doesn't know. If you,
That's how he knows
you
it
ask
works.
him, he'll go, I do not know. I just make the things I want to make. yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
We don't even
I
see each other.
couldn't let season 6 slip away without getting at least one more notch on our Liam Neeson belt. So my recommendation this week is 2026's Cold Storage. When a highly corrosive and rapidly spreading fungus escapes from containment, a retired bioterrorism agent enlists the help of 2 minimum wage employees to curb the threat. It stars the aforementioned Liam Neeson in a role that blends his talent for both comedy and menacing authority figures, as well as Georgina Campbell of Barbarian fame, and Joe Keery, who is apparently one of the Stranger Things. No, not that one. Or that one. Or either of those two. But yes, that one! Joe Keery. The fungal infection effects worked in the scenes where they were done practically and didn't when done digitally, which was often to render a fungal spore explosion, which is how the fungus spreads throughout the film. That's to the detriment of the film, because I think if they employed more practical effects during these sequences, they would see that the fungal blast radius would be much wider than how is depicted in the film. After all, a sneeze travels at an average of at least 10 miles per hour, up to 35 across flat terrain. Certainly an exploding head would have a significant area of splatterage, especially given that the film deems this its primary method of distribution. That said, it's an entertaining mix of body horror meets buddy comedy, and it will hold your interest for its runtime. Too bad cheaping now on the effects means this film is unlikely to stand the test of time like some of its aspirational forerunners, such as The Thing. Shout out to the smartest character in horror history, however, the guy who got in his goddamn truck and just drove away as soon as the shit started and never came back. Hope to see you in the sequel, my
Mika
man.
Sloat. Oh.
If you want to check it out, Cold Storage is currently available for rent and purchase at all the usual outlets.
I heartily endorse that recommendation. Very well done.
And,
So
you know,
good.
and also endorsed by Daryl Schlender.
Absolutely. The Master Chief himself.
Exactly. Ryan, what have you got for us?
My recommendation this week is a cozy little kids movie that happens to revolve around cold-blooded murder, The Sheep Detectives.
Aw.
When their misanthropic but beloved to them shepherd, played by Hugh Jackman, is killed, this flock of sheep use everything they've learned and choose to remember, this makes sense when you see it, from the mystery novels that he read to them at bedtime to solve the case. It's extremely heartwarming, but very direct. There's even a discussion about the contradictory nature of God that I loved, and it gave me serious Paddington vibes, which you know I never say lightly. Not what I expected from the creator of Chernobyl and The Last of Us. I swear to God, that's a true thing.
Oh.
And when the sheep talk to one another, but never to humans, they're wonderfully voiced by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Bryan Cranston, Chris O'Dowd, Patrick Stewart, Rhys Darby, Regina Hall, etc. All of this, as of this recording, it's still in theaters, but if you miss it, it's unfortunately produced by Amazon, so it'll be streaming on Prime. Yuck. Support your local library.
I've only been hearing great things. I really want to see this one.
The advertisement said it was Knives Out meets Babe.
That's
Cheers out.
I am there for that.
I would
man.
sign up for
It welcomes that comparison.
Yeah, I bet.
Nice.
Schlenzo, what have we got for us?
Maynard,
Put us on home for the whole season.
Yes, sir. So
Spit it out.
Return
Hurry
to
up.
form. I mean, granted, you took the Liam Neeson hacker, but that's okay because I've got a hacker with.
Wait, Liam Neeson was in yours, Maynard? Really?
That's yes.
Yeah, it was
Well,
like
then
the first thing he
here's
said.
a bell that's ringing. Yeah, I guess I didn't catch that. This means Liam Neeson has tied Toshiro Mifune for being the most recommended actor in Reels of Justice history, overtaking Charles Bronson.
I would put those two actors on that level together.
And that's why he won the Lifetime Achievement Award this year. All right. Unfortunately, Liam Neeson's not in mine, but you know who is?
Toshiro
Aaron
Mifune?
Eckhart.
Oh.
No, I wish. I'm telling you, Toshiro Mifune is 80 years old. He's dead. So anyway, Thieves Highway from 2025. Sure, it may not have Liam Neeson and Toshiro Mifune, but it does have Aaron Eckhart and Devon Sawa. Remember him?
Yes,
Turns out he's an evil cattle rustler now.
Wish.com versions.
And he, yes, I know. It's like seeing double. So anyway, Devon Sawa runs a vicious gang of cattle rustlers, and it's up to livestock officer Aaron Eckhart to stop him. But they kill his partner, so now it's personal. Aaron Eckhart really grabs the bull by the horns on this one and systematically takes out all the bad guys with aplomb and style. Man, this is a great hacker. It hits all the notes you want it to, and it ends cleanly, and you really think, man, that was a lot of violence. And that's really what you're here for. I hope Aaron Eckhart makes more hackers. Is he going to make as many as Liam Neeson? Who's to say? But it's definitely something I would like to see more of him. And frankly, you know what? Do a whole series as this livestock officer and make the plots as attenuated as possible. And I'll be there for it. The only demerit, not directed by Bam Bam Bamford. You would think it would have been, but it was by Jesse V. Johnson.
Dylan?
Yes?
2 weeks ago, Aaron Eckhart made another hacker.
Yes!
About sharks attacking a plane.
Oh, well, see, I love it. I think this is a great fit for Aaron Eckhart. He needs to keep moving harder in this direction. He needs to get together with Bamford. I love that every kind of like handsome macho actor is at least trying to dip their toe in hackers. I mean, even Sean Penn did it. So I'm just saying, everyone give it a shot and let's see what works. I'm still holding out hope that Kevin Costner really gives up and commits to it because I think he would be the tops. But
don't go
I'm
full
satisfied
hack,
with what we have now.
You never go full
Oh, no,
hack.
you have to.
Go.
Oh, you got to go. You got to go full hack.
The hack pack demands it, dude.
Yeah, the hack pack demands it. And again, one that's endorsed by the Master Chief, who texted me immediately after watching it saying, pretty good, thumbs up.
Pretty good. That's 5 stars from him.
The fact that he typed more than just a thumbs up tells you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's going to be my blurb.
Could your cattle rustlers work with the sheep detectives?
No, cattle rustlers are the bad guys.
Right, but your cattle
steal.
rustle law enforcer.
Oh, yes. No, that would be a great team up, actually. The
go.
livestock officer teaming up with the sheep.
Right.
I'd be here for that.
We got our sequel spanned out.
Also, I got to look into this shark airplane movie that Ryan's put on my radar.
It's not called Sharks on a Plane, like the...
It'll be more fun for me to discover it myself. I think Thieves Highway is streaming on either Prime or Tubi, though. You know, it's definitely on one of the free ones, so put it on and enjoy it. Now, that's the movie you want to watch.
They could
Sunday
call
at
it
noon.
Jet Scream.
Jet Scream. Oh, I don't hate it.
Yeah. We'll workshop it. Maybe we'll have a better idea next season. Because
Oh, no.
we're all out of show for this whole season. But we're going to be back next season, which is next week. Don't worry. You'll pretty much not miss anything.
And just the same as ever.
Yeah, exactly.
New posters, though.
There are new
art
posters.
styles.
Well,
yes.
Ben makes new unwanted posters. I'm not changing the other ones. I'm not doing it. It's a brand.
No, they're too classic. Except for
exactly.
Hell on Reels, you got spider webs and things.
Well, yeah, those are classy, very classy spider webs.
Yeah,
But we hope everyone will join us again next season as well, as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Count it.
Superman is great.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.